So I want to ask you to think with me for a few minutes. Imagine in your thoughts what you've gathered now over your lifetime. Doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you've gathered. Also, it doesn't matter how many rabbit holes or wormholes you've gone into and come out of, or how many so called levels of intelligence and spiritual intelligence and etc., 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 you've acquired over your lifetime. Think in a commonsensical manner with me. So now you are aware that we are existing within a magical world. I'm calling it very strongly a magical world, which very much is part of the magical existence of humankind, along with the animals, the plant kingdoms, the minerals, etc., etc., everything else that's alive in this realm. When I say magical world, I'm not speaking about paganism, I'm not speaking about magician stuff, I'm not speaking about paganistic beliefs or anything like that, or witchcraft. I'm speaking about metaphysics in its essence. When I speak about magic, I'm referring to the understanding that what I see becomes something rooted inside of me, becomes a reality because I believe in it, because I give it my energy, my consciousness, my focus. That is what I mean by saying magical. So please keep it in context when I ask you to think about the understanding of what is magic. What is creation? Is the ancient original creator not so profoundly magical and beautiful and conscious at all times during the creation process? And are we not also able to experience that without saying that we are gods, of course? Because that seems to be the next belief system, that people think that if they continue on a journey of spiritual self-discovery, that they then come to the realization that they're God. Seriously, we are not speaking about that either. So metaphysics in itself, if you don't know what metaphysics is about, then go to my channel and find Metaphysics 101. I give you a very brief, direct, clear, concise explanation of what it is. How long do you think it took to set up a system that would essentially slowly over time scratch and scratch and scratch at your common sense, scratch at your beliefs, try and break the tether that you have with your families over lifetimes, wars that you had to sign up for because you were afraid that you wouldn't get pay at the end of the week to support your family. Perhaps you were a new family, you started off new, or your community needed you, and you signed up for these things, these things that other people make you sign up for. Literally, these are only things or beliefs or organizations or agencies. I'll call it them all agencies. How long it took for these agencies to make themselves more and more present, so much so that they became irreplaceable. How long did they work on this? And then compare to how long you've been working to try and understand them. And you come with a kind of out of balance sort of measurement, I would say. Common sense tells you that it's a bit out of balance, because you may wonder why. What an illogical question, I would ask. And yet that is exactly a measurement or a reveal to you, personal reveal to you, about how long it's taken for these agencies to set themselves up as gods, as collective relationship controllers, where they control trade between countries, where they initiate trade between countries, where they initiate religions. So many of these religions have all been mixed up so much, you don't even know what is up or down. And they keep perpetuating the same program, the same belief, the same ideology. Now, in my last video, I had spoken about a particular explanation or a diagram that I was going to present, and I thought maybe it's not a good idea to do so because it really is something that would require a particular state of mind to observe, to understand the process in which it is meant to be understood as. But the best way for me to do this is to actually tell you. It would be better to explain it in that way, how the system came about. I was busy over this week to try and put my thoughts together as I've been inspired to do so. And what I found was actually pretty interesting because it very much runs sort of in the same alignment as understanding how television came about, the history of television. And so I wanted to explain in a symbolic way how the system really presents itself. Yeah, I know it's obvious about the television thing, but you need to look at it a little bit deeper than just the obvious. And you need to look at how it was put together, essentially. The history of television really started with wanting to present images. First, it started with presenting sound and wanting to let sound travel to another part of a region or an A to B. And so more of this started to happen. More science developed, more exploration, more focus, more whatever it takes, you know. And so as I was busy looking at the works and things of how the history of television happened, I came across quite a few things that were actually pretty much is pretty accurate in terms of what has been developed over time with regards to the system itself. And I'm talking about the minions and the ministers of propaganda and the ministers of malice, etc., etc., etc. You know, the sick, Sophianic female counterpart that is like a person or an entity that is, you know, essentially threaded itself into the very foundations of the consciousness of men and women and children. And so as you look deeper into this, you start to realize that there were the ages of the historical developments of the world of men and women, of humankind, had gone through quite a series of extreme ages, extreme changes. I mean, the Dark Age pretty much speaks for itself. Things were not dark because they were dark, or because it was negative. We have to come away from that rudimentary first level thinking. We have to go a little deeper than that. We have to investigate the understanding of why it was dark. And it always comes to the most metaphysical explanation where when it's dark, it means it's devoid of light. So when it was devoid of light, it means nothing much was documented of that time. Most likely because the very serious information of people that would want to express truth and original spirituality and consciousness and knowledge and caring and beautiful things were suppressed at those ages, at those times. And in the same way, like the television, like so many televangelists, that's a nice word that they pretty much could be coined as, had wanted to start in the same way, or perhaps they, like I've said before many times, is they don't invent things, they copy things. That's all that they can do. It's what happens when there's so much blood mixing in the families, and etc., etc. And basically, if you look at the magician, the occultist of the Queen Elizabeth, John Dee, is a very good example of dabbling in some sort of televangelization with angels, in inverted brackets, really, and or demons, as many scholars perhaps have tried to refute those particular findings. And it was quite simple, really, if you look at how he put it all together, where he wanted to use a particular communication device which he put together from a Solomonic and Kabbalion and occult, esoteric influences, alchemy, the whole lot. Everything's all mixed up. And I'm being very simple here in the way that I'm explaining it. I deliberately do not want to go into details. I don't want to be analyzing things to an nth degree. I want to explain as my thoughts go with you. And when you explore that the first communication device was really the communication through these stones that he used, these black obelisk-like stones made out of obsidian, which very much similar is like the television screen, okay? Now, again, I'm not saying, please, things to understand that I'm using the symbols of obelisk and stones in such a way is not about it's not about crystals, it's not about any of that stuff. I'm talking about using the elements as they are in the example, as I'm explaining it to you. That the information was transferred through those things. They believed in it. They used serious, heavy magic to present information coming from the outer realities, outer dimensions, whatever, to communicate to him and his partner, who wanted to explore this much more deeper. Edward Kelly was his name. If you look at the television, the invention of it, the history of television, please do yourself a favor and click on the link. I've put it underneath. It's a Wikipedia link. You don't really need to go into detail. I've just basically canvassed through it and just taken out what is most important in terms of what I want to explain. So it really is about trying to explain something in terms of the theory of the invention of television, because we are now going into the three-dimensional television age. When essentially, if you look at the first page, and I'll give you a snapshot here, that television started to develop in mechanics first. And so the progress developed over time. And in many of these times or versions of television itself, you're looking at the information that was used to televise propaganda. There was a person called Paul Julius Gottlieb Nipkow, who was a German technician and inventor. He invented the Nipkow disc. It's on the Wikipedia page. I chose deliberately not to go everywhere else because it is rather tedious, and really the information on the site itself is cited from many other sources, which I will accept as what I will cite from. However, this is not a formal researched material as I usually do. I've decided to move a little bit away from the very seriousness of the research in itself, because the YouTube has shadowed me, and I'm a little bit on the bad side of the algorithms because of my material. And so that is why it is important for everyone to see, to like, subscribe, and to click the bell icon so that you know. I think you're sort of getting the idea how often I do load material up, but anyway, that aside. And so, coming back to this Nipkow guy, there's a diagram or schematic which he used to display circular paths traced by where and how the light comes in terms of how he presents an image. And an image, or he called it an image rasterizer, which basically is used to analyze the image by analyzing the other parts of that where there's no light. So in very simple terms, if you're looking at an image, you'll see the outside of the image rather than the actual image itself, because the outside of the image is what gives detail to the image or of the focal point, which, if you simplify it, really makes it more sort of as if it's a bit inverted if you look at it in such a way. And then if you go a little bit further into the history and you allow your thoughts to develop a little bit more, is a reason why I brought John Dee up, because of the way that he did it as well, the same type of setup, very similar to how the television was set up as well, by using imaging that presents in a particular coded way. And then the age of electronic television came, and so the age of color television and the digital and the smart television and the 3D television, and then something else called terrestrial television and cable television, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And as you can see, the development age in itself is very similar to the development stage of the beliefs of the system, and how it has systematically over time become more and more apparent as a source, a main source of something that can be, that is irreplaceable in a sense. I mean, I'm literally talking to you on devices that are being used by the same technology. We would not have known of each other if we did not speak or communicate through these devices of technology. So in a sense, I can't vilify it as much as I really want to. Then we won't ever know of each other's progress unless we suddenly developed super psychic overnight and was able to mind read each other, which is also excuse me, possible, but you're going to need some serious time to do that work as well. And obviously not be distracted by life. So even though we have these abilities, it does make it difficult to attain unless you want to go and live inside an ashram or a cave and live the simple life of literally eating grass. I'm being facetious here, but I'm trying to explain to you that you have to use your common sense, your logical consciousness. You cannot live in a position or state of existence when you are not able to understand or grasp your own existence for yourself. So I'm referring to being logical and intelligent in your reasoning about yourself, and to move away from the rainbows and unicorns that are often being perpetuated through many supposed truth stream communities, which is definitely to do with an issue that we deal with quite often, and makes the entrapment factor quite successful at times. But anyway, I've digressed from what I was wanting to say. So Coming back to the changes and the ages of how long it took for the system to really manufacture itself into a position that it becomes almost irreplaceable, and now to such a place where it is irreplaceable because everyone uses it, also lends to the system users and abusers the ability to manipulate the information and the visual imagery like it has been going on. And really, as I've said in the previous videos, the system is like a cataract overlay over the eye, which is the metaphorical, metaphysical explanation or representation, in my terms, in my words, of the world that we live in. There is a lot of effort that has been made in place for you to become swooped up, absorbed, what is the word, to become part, to assimilate, to become part of the system itself. The system requires users and abusers. And we who are not of the system anymore and who are still operating within it, and I think it's also said that I live in the world, but I'm not of the world. I think it's somewhere very prominently mentioned in in biblical works, that is exactly what it was meant to be understood as. That is where we are. We are within it, but we are not of it. We never were. And that it's become so obvious that at some point you do feel alone. Obviously, because you keep trying to explain the information as it comes to you and to others that you care about, and they just simply look at you with bleary eyes and blink and, continue with the football, the rugby, the sport, the advertising, the jokes, the memes, the crap that they love to fill their lives with. And very similar, very, very soon you sort of become, you feel as if you're in that position where you literally need to do something, otherwise you feel you could lose touch. And so you find yourself often enough then to slowly look back to see where they are, and you become disappointed. This is the next place where you probably could find yourself. If you're new to the material on this channel, you will find yourself in a place where you feel a bit despondent and a bit sad for how things have become. You'll see the logic in everything, of course, but you'll find yourself in that place where you may feel alone, and you may wonder to yourself, what's next? What am I supposed to do next? And so if you then look at the material of my channel, this information that I've been explaining to you over the last few weeks is not new. It's been on my channel for many years. I've just chosen to readdress it in a much more understandable manner, because I believe that the work is quite complex, and it takes a while to understand what I'm trying to say. And also because we grow, we mature, we grow up, we live within a new understanding. We are alive, and the skin of your body ages with you and grows with you for you to understand. So you are automatically learning every day, every moment of your existence. So you get to the point where you basically feel like you are disconnected, maybe. And the disconnection sense itself is not really a disconnection. It's just really a disconnecting from the actual control of the influence of the system itself over you, while you still operate and exist within this world. And it feels almost as if you're alone and isolated. Then it is based on the belief that you entered into the understanding that if you disconnect from the system, that you will achieve something. And that is based on a belief system of oppression, subjectivity. Understand very clearly here. The disconnection from the system itself is to disconnect from its control over your consciousness. There is nothing else other than that understanding, that awareness. That awareness in itself is your freedom, your sovereignty. And that sovereignty is based on who you are, your authenticity, your original self. I keep harping on the word original because there's no other word to explain the original sense of something that is untainted, something that is unaffected by beliefs, by ideologies, by nonsense that is being projected into the brain, for the eyes to also become illuminated, to become spellbound by bullshit. The system is filled with an illuminosity that is very similar to that same type of belief that was used during scrying rituals so that certain entities would come into this reality. That is what they believed, okay? This is not what I'm making up, but what John Dee and his Edward Kelly friend believed would come through to give them some guidance to understand about the world. And other scholars have, for instance, Tracy Twyman had done a much deep developed investigation for her research purpose only, and not because of what she had also done prior, but specifically because of the research herself. I feel I have to cite the fact that she was very involved in trying to understand and came to the conclusion that through John Dee, perhaps he was involved in ascertaining a type of systemic belief, or to give the system a foundation, a root. Because hermetics, hermeticity, the golden dawn, these things, these places, these societies for the rich and lonely and whatever influential influencers, the elite clubs, whatever, self-appointed kings and queens of the system itself, needed to validate or to study the works. And of course you have Aleister Crowley, who had also influenced quite heavily the system route as well. His intention was very clear from the beginning. He actually didn't do it behind everyone's back. He just said it outright for what it was. He wanted to get rid of the belief in Christianity, or the Christianity religion itself. And I'm not talking about the fake ones. I'm talking about the original understanding and belief and existence within an original creator. We call it Christianity now for that purpose. This is not about the pseudo rituals that have been, and religions that have been existing for so many centuries. And based on this perception, so too was it very, very heavily represented, the televisation of the televangelic people, that very strongly presents itself in the movie 2001 Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's movie, about this black block of obsidian that is very similar to the mystical reference that the Greeks pre-Socratic believed was called Apeiron, which was essentially understood in the beginning, before Plato got hold of it, of course, that it was a position or a space or a place of infinite creation. And of course, when Plato got hold of it, it became a place of infinite chaos. It just shows you how so many people have been taking information from other people as well and really scrubbed it so badly up that you don't recognize anything anymore, which is why it's so important for you to focus within you so that you get the internal, infinite potential of the constant creative expression at all times. Your fountain will never run dry. This is why you need to focus on wisdom from within, so that you are able to achieve the wisdom that nothing can touch it. Always be mindful of that. And it takes you to the point where you need to go deeper into your conscious thoughts to explore and understand why you are here and who you are. If it was not possible for you to understand why you are here and what's the point of being here, then you will certainly start to understand it now. And you will then come to that choice where you will then be given an understanding of realizing you can decide if you want to keep focusing on what is within you and build on that connection, or connect with people that you are familiar with, that you connect with, a support system, reach out, communicate. The aim of understanding the entire process is not to alienate you or to help or to make you feel alienated from yourself or from life, but it is for you to become observational and objective, to understand the real meaning of why you are here. As I've said before, and I'm saying it again, people who come to my channel, it is expected to understand that material is absolutely quite serious. And you have come to a place in your life where you are certain of what it is that you're seeking to know. My channel is not a lucky packet or a vendor for things and people to dip in and dip out and leave. Because certainly the material then that you take with you is absolutely makes no sense to you if you find yourself wanting to do that. And so I'm speaking only to you who is absolutely very serious, because the users and abusers of the system itself have much focus on you. You are absolutely of utmost importance to them at any given point in time. So now I'm asking you the question again. How long, in terms of the work that they have spent to chisel away at the beliefs of common man, of humanity itself, versus how long do you think has it taken versus the information and the knowledge that you have found within yourself? How far have you come to understand that? And have you taken that much time that they have taken time in you for yourself? And then you'll understand that we are in a very serious position right now. And that you are in your consciousness. You already have everything within you. And so when you ask for guidance, you will be given guidance. When you ask for wisdom to be open to you, then that will happen. The connection is about trusting yourself when you are asking that. I'm leaving that with you.